The night I met Sebastian Cole. I met Sebastian Cole on the night I thought I was going to die. Not the "oh God, I'm so dead" kind when you fail a midterm. The actual kind. It was late. I just finished a closing shift at a bar near Westbridge University. Rain was pouring down, cold enough to soak straight through my worn-out Converse. I walked with my head down, counting the meager tips in my pocket, trying to figure out if I had enough left for ramen next week. Then I heard the gunshot. Bang! A scream tore through the alley ahead. People scattered in every direction. I stood there like an idiot for 2 full seconds before survival instinct spun me around to run the other way. Someone suddenly lunged out of the darkness, grabbed me hard around the waist, and shoved me flat against an ice-cold brick wall. I didn't even get to scream before a hand clamped over my mouth. Quiet! A low male voice, right against my ear. My heart nearly stopped. I looked up and saw the most beautiful face I'd ever seen in my life. Black hair, soaked with rain, falling across his forehead. Gray eyes, sharp and cold. Perfectly hard jawline. A white dress shirt stained with dark red. Blood. Wait, blood. I'm going to take my hand away. His voice was barely a whisper. If you scream, we both die. I nodded frantically. He slowly let go. I gasped. What the hell? Shoo! He pulled me back against his chest just as 3 men with guns sprinted past the mouth of the alley. This way. He's wounded. He can't have gone far. I held my breath. The man in front of me went completely still. One hand kept my waist pinned. The other hid a black pistol behind his jacket. I could hear his heartbeat. Steady. As cold. Nothing like mine, which was hammering out of control. The 3 men ran past. Silence fell for a few seconds. Then the man suddenly buckled. Wait! I caught him on instinct. Blood immediately covered my hands. Damn it! I'm fine. He was breathing hard. You were shot. Won't kill me. That's not something a normal person says. He looked up at me. In the flickering red neon light bleeding from a bar somewhere down the street, those gray eyes were beautiful in a way that made no sense. What's your name? Elliot. Elliot. He repeated it like he was filing it away. Listen, I need your help. I let out a stunned laugh. You're bleeding on me. I'll pay you. I don't think this is really the time. 3rd floor. He pressed a blood-smeared key into my hand. Belmont Hotel. Get me up there. I looked at the key, then at him. Why would I help you? He was quiet for 2 seconds. Then very softly, because if I get caught, you're next. Everything in me went cold. What? An engine roared somewhere out on the street. Headlights swept across the mouth of the alley. He yanked me down against him. The smell of gunpowder and dark, woody cologne filled every breath I took. A voice rang out. Search this block. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely feel them. Who are you? He looked straight into my eyes. Sebastian. Sebastian what? Cole. The name meant nothing to me, until the car outside turned on its radio. The Cole family continues to face scrutiny in connection with the violent settlement on Chicago's South Side. The blood in my veins went to ice. The Cole family. The Cole mafia. A name that had been all over the news for 3 years. I slowly turned to look at the man in front of me. This was Sebastian Cole, the youngest son of the most feared crime boss in the city, the one they said had shot a traitor dead in the middle of his own birthday party. Oh my God! Sebastian's mouth curved slightly. Yeah, that's the usual reaction. I'm helping the mafia? Shoo! He frowned. You're actually very loud. I'm calling the police. The police are hunting me. Great. All the more reason. Footsteps suddenly got closer. Sebastian yanked me against him and dropped his head down. The next second, his lips touched mine. I went completely rigid. My mind went blank. The kiss lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough to make my knees go soft. A man with a gun walked past the alley entrance, glanced over at us, and grimaced. Damn kids. He walked on. Sebastian slowly lifted his head. The distance between our faces was close enough that I could feel his breath against my mouth. We're safe for now. His voice was low. I stared at him like my entire operating system had crashed. You just kissed me. Yeah. You just kissed me. Do you want me to apologize? I want to know what the hell is happening. Sebastian pressed one hand against the wall behind me. Despite being wounded, the weight of him was overwhelming. 2 options, he said. 1. You leave me here and wait for them to come back and shoot us both. And 2. The corner of his mouth lifted. Walk your boyfriend back to his hotel. My jaw dropped. You're what? That's what they think now. I don't know you. That's fine. Sebastian held my gaze. I think you're exactly my type. My face went hot instantly. While I was still in psychological shock over having my first kiss stolen by a mafioso in a filthy alley in the pouring rain, Sebastian buckled again. Damn it! I caught him on instinct. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Because the moment my arms went around Sebastian's waist, he immediately leaned his full weight into me like it was the most natural thing in the world. Let's go, Elliot. His voice was rough against my ear. Take your boyfriend home. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. And what made it worse? I was starting to realize I didn't want to let go. I still don't know how I ended up walking a wounded mafioso to a hotel at 2 in the morning. Maybe adrenaline. Maybe because Sebastian Cole was too dangerous to say no to. Or maybe because when he leaned his weight onto my shoulder, breathing ragged from blood loss, he suddenly didn't look like the monster from TV anymore. He just looked like a guy who was hurting. An unreasonably handsome one. 3rd floor. Sebastian rasped as we stumbled through the back entrance of the Belmont Hotel. I know. The hotel was small and worn down, the kind of place that got rented by the hour more than overnight. The front desk was empty. The night attendant was dozing in front of a baseball game. Lucky for us, nobody noticed the bloodstains on my shirt. I hauled Sebastian into the elevator. The moment the doors closed, he immediately sagged against the wall, eyes shutting for a few seconds. That was when I finally got a clear look at his face under the light. Devastatingly handsome. Skin pale from blood loss. Long lashes casting shadows beneath his eyes. Lips slightly colorless but still sculpted like something carved. I hated that I was noticing any of this right now. Are you okay? No. Oh, wonderful. I grimaced. At least you're honest. The corner of Sebastian's mouth twitched. Are you always this talkative? I'm panicking. It's cute. Don't flirt with me. Flirt. He opened his eyes and looked at me. In the yellow elevator light, those gray eyes looked darker than before. I just used you as a human shield in a gunfight, he said slowly. If I can still find the energy to flirt, I must actually like you. My face burned. Are you insane? Possibly. I'm being serious. So am I. The elevator doors opened. I dragged Sebastian out before he could say anything else that would make my heart stop. Room 307 was at the end of the hall. The moment the door swung open, I froze. The room looked nothing like a normal hotel room. 2 large computer monitors sat on a desk. A communications headset. A suitcase, open, packed to the brim with guns. I couldn't move. Good Lord. Sebastian closed the door behind us and moved to the small kitchenette. Whiskey's in the fridge. Help yourself. You think I care about whiskey right now? Ido. He actually opened the fridge and took out a bottle. I stared at the bloodstain spreading across his white shirt. You need a hospital. No. You could die. Sebastian took a sip of the whiskey like we were discussing the weather. My doctor is on the way. A mafia doctor? Yeah. I hate everything about this. Sebastian actually laughed at that. Low and quiet. It filled the small room and vibrated somewhere in my chest. Come here. Why? The bullet went straight through my shoulder. He set the glass down. I need you to help get it out. I nearly fainted. No. Elliot. I study graphic design, not surgery. YouTube has tutorials. I don't want to learn. Sebastian sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. Then he took off his shirt. I immediately went silent. God. Oh no. His body was covered in black tattoos running from his shoulder down across his chest and stomach. Not cheap or showy, beautiful like actual art. His left shoulder was soaked in deep red, the bullet almost certainly still lodged inside. But the bigger problem was, I couldn't stop staring. Sebastian leaned one hand on the table and tilted his head slightly. You're blushing. I'm not. Your ears are red. You're half dead and you're noticing that? Yeah. He was absolutely unhinged. I rummaged through the first aid kit in the room with shaking hands. Okay, I'll try. Good boy. I shot him a look. Don't call me that. The corner of Sebastian's mouth curved with obvious amusement. I knelt in front of the sofa where he sat, close enough that I could smell the warm, deep scent of his cologne on feverish skin. My hands were shaking so badly the metal tweezers rattled together. Sebastian watched me for a moment. Then his hand closed around my wrist. Elliot. What? Breathe. His voice was lower now, quieter than before. I'm not going to die. I swallowed hard. You don't know that. Sebastian looked at me in silence. Then very softly, Ido. How? Because I haven't slept with you yet. I dropped the tweezers. Oh my God. Sebastian laughed out loud in the middle of actively bleeding out. I hate you. No, you don't. I genuinely hate you. You're shaking because you're worried about me. He leaned closer. That's not hate. My heart was pounding hard enough to hurt. I hated that he was right. Absolutely hated it. Just then, click, a key in the lock. I spun around. A tall blonde man stepped into the room with two bodyguards in black. He took one look at the scene in front of him. Me, kneeling between Sebastian's feet. Both my hands bloody. Sebastian, shirtless. Silence. The blonde man raised an eyebrow. Did I come at a bad time? I shot to my feet like I'd touched a live wire. It's not what you think. Sebastian was completely calm. He leaned back against the sofa cushions and said evenly, Ah, right. Introductions. Those gray eyes slid over to me, full of quiet laughter. This is Elliot. A beat of silence. Then, without blinking, my boyfriend. I went completely still, and the blonde man nearly dropped his car keys. I am not your boyfriend. I practically screamed it into Sebastian's face. The blonde man in the doorway turned to look at him with a rare, visible shock. Holy shit. You're serious? Sebastian just smiled faintly. Have I ever joked about something like this? Yes. The blonde replied immediately. Many times. Sebastian paused for 2 seconds. Fair enough. I was losing my mind. Is nobody going to explain anything to me? The blonde man finally remembered I existed. He stepped forward and extended a hand with a surprisingly easy smile. Damian Rossi. I looked at his hand like it was a ticking bomb. Another mafioso? Offended. He put a hand to his chest. My family's in real estate. Sebastian spoke up from behind him. And money laundering. Damian turned. Sebastian. Am I wrong? No. I felt faint. Damian looked back at me, eyes full of curiosity. Are you actually his boyfriend? No. Sebastian calmly picked up his whiskey. Yes. Will you shut up? Damian burst out laughing hard enough to grab the table for support. I already like you, Elliot. I don't like anyone in this room. Fair. One of Damian's bodyguards stepped forward. Mr. Cole is looking for you. Every trace of ease vanished from Sebastian's face instantly. The room went noticeably colder. He knows I'm here? It appears so. Sebastian swore under his breath and stood. Immediately I stepped back by instinct, because he didn't look like the reckless, flirtatious madman anymore. He looked like actual mafia. Dangerous, razor-sharp, frightening in a way that made the air feel thick. Damian exhaled. I told you not to show up on Chicago's South Side this week. I didn't know the O'Connors were stupid enough to stage an ambush in the middle of the street. You killed the boss's cousin. Sebastian shrugged. He disrespected me first. My mouth fell open. You actually kill people? All three men turned to look at me. Sebastian blinked. Did you think I ran some online operation? Oh God. Couldn't breathe. I was in a hotel room with a mafia hitman being actively hunted. And worse, that hitman had just announced to his associates that I was his boyfriend. I needed to leave. Right now. I'm going. I turned and lunged for the door. But the moment I passed Sebastian, his hand closed around my wrist. Not hard. Just enough to make me stop. Elliot. Let go. I'll explain. I don't want to hear it. I need you to stay tonight. I need to live. Damien cleared his throat softly beside us. Technically, staying near Sebastian gives you better odds. I rounded on him. Do you have Stockholm Syndrome? I'm just stating facts. Sebastian still hadn't let go of my wrist. His gray eyes held mine, his voice dropping. The people who saw you tonight won't leave you alone. I went rigid. What do you mean? You witnessed the ambush. His voice was quiet. You're already in it.
No.
No, I'm not. I was just walking by. In this world, there's no such thing as just walking by. That sentence ran ice down my spine. I hated knowing he meant every word. Damien shifted his weight. Also, it might be a little late to deny the relationship anyway. What? He pulled out his phone and held the screen up. I went still. A photo, shot from the mouth of the alley. Me pinned against the wall by Sebastian in the rain. His arm around my waist. Our mouths touching. Oh no! Damien was visibly fighting a grin. People on campus are already talking. Caption reads, Mystery bad boy spotted kissing Elliot Harper outside Velvet. I wanted to dissolve into the floor. Delete it. Too late. He kept scrolling. Oh wow, there's a hashtag. Sebastian's mouth curved behind me. I like this one. I don't. I grabbed Damien's phone. And right then, a new notification appeared. An anonymous account had just posted, Sebastian Cole's new person? With a gun emoji. Every drop of warmth left my body. Damien stopped laughing. Shit. Sebastian took the phone from my hand. His eyes darkened reading the post. A second later, he looked at the bodyguard. Double the coverage around the university. Understood. Wait. I was nearly frantic. What are you going to do to my campus? Protect you. I don't need mafia protection. Sebastian looked at me for a long moment. Then he stepped closer. Too close. Elliot. His voice was barely above a whisper. From the moment you pulled me out of that alley. His hand came up, tilting my chin gently. You became my weakness. My throat closed. I hated the way he looked at me like no one else in the room existed. Damien immediately turned to face the wall. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. I saw it. My face was burning. And this is insane. Sebastian still didn't look away. Maybe. You don't even know me. But I want to. Silence. Then, boom. A massive explosion from somewhere outside the hotel. The glass windows shuddered. The alarm shrieked to life. One of the bodyguards rushed to the window and looked down, his face going white. The car in the lot. It's gone. Damien swore. Sebastian yanked me behind him without hesitation. Gunshots rang out from somewhere below. Bang, bang, bang. I grabbed the back of his arm in a panic. What's happening? The O'Connors found us. Here. Yeah. He turned to Damien. Get Elliot out first. I'm not going anywhere, I shouted. Sebastian turned and dropped his face level with mine. Listen to me this once. But you, Elliot. His voice went quiet. Trust me. Something in my chest pulled tight. Then footsteps thundered down the hall outside. A second later, crash. The door lock blew open. I screamed. Sebastian drew his gun from behind his back in one smooth motion. The black pistol sat in his hand like it had always belonged there. Those gray eyes went flat and cold. No trace of warmth left. Stay behind me, he said. Then Sebastian Cole pulled the trigger. The gunshot split the air right next to my ear. Bang! The man who'd burst through the door dropped to the floor before I could even make out his face. Blood hit the wall. I couldn't move. Everything happened too fast. Damien dragged me down behind the sofa just as more bullets tore through the room. Glass exploding. I hate my life, I screamed. Stay calm, college boy. Damien yelled back over the gunfire. At least you're dating the best-looking guy in the mafia. I'm not dating anyone. Sebastian was behind the wall, changing out his magazine with terrifying calm. Technically, you kissed me. I was forced. You kissed back. My face burned despite the firefight happening around us. I was in shock. Damien nearly choked. Now I get why Sebastian likes you. I don't care. Another bullet blew out the lamp overhead and I screamed and hit the floor. Hell! Sebastian glanced over at me. You okay? Are you serious right now? Then 3 more men poured into the room. Sebastian was on his feet instantly. I had never seen anyone move like that. Fast. Precise. Terrifying in a way that stole the air from the room. Bang! Bang! 2 of them dropped immediately. The third lunged for Sebastian's blind side. Sebastian! I shouted without thinking. He spun and fired first. The third man crumpled at my feet. Silence fell over the room. My ears were ringing. Gunsmoke hung in the air. Sebastian stood in front of me, chest rising and falling, the wound in his shoulder seeping through the bandage again. Then he turned and looked at me. Were you worried about me? My throat tightened. You were about to get shot. The corner of his mouth curved. Goo! You absolute madman. Damien rubbed his forehead. Are you two actually flirting in the middle of a gunfight? I'm not flirting. Sebastian stepped toward me. Too close again. He lifted his hand and wiped a smear of blood from my cheek with the pad of his thumb. Impossibly gentle given everything around us. You got blood on you. I know. Not yours. That does not make this better. A bodyguard ran in from the hall. We have to move. Sebastian nodded. Then he reached up and pulled his leather jacket off, wrapping it around me without a word. I blinked. What are you doing? Covering your face. Why? Press is on the way. I nearly fainted. What? Damien let out a low whistle. Right? A car bomb and a shootout at a hotel in the middle of the night? Yeah, this is definitely breaking news. All I wanted was a normal college experience. I pressed my hands over my face. Sebastian looked at me for a long moment. Then quietly he said, I'm sorry. I stopped. It was the first time since we'd met that his voice sounded like that. No teasing. No deflección. Just plain, simple regret. It knocked the anger right out of me. Damien broke the moment immediately. Okay, emotional scene over? We need to go. Sebastian took my hand. Let's move. I started to object. But when I looked down at his hand, locked tight around mine, with the wail of police sirens rising in the distance, I said nothing. We ran down the fire stairs at the back of the hotel. Rain was still hammering outside. Chicago at 3 in the morning was cold enough to bite through skin. Sebastian kept me close as the group sprinted through the dark alley behind the hotel. A black SUV was waiting at the end. A bodyguard pulled the door open. Sebastian pushed me in first, then climbed in right after. The car sped away with a screech of tires on wet pavement. I was still shaking, hands ice cold, mind completely scattered. Sebastian sat beside me for a moment, then reached over and pulled me closer without asking. I'm fine. You're shaking. Because someone is trying to kill us. Just me, technically. That's not comforting. Damien, from the front seat, started laughing. I genuinely like you, Elliot. I don't understand how anyone can laugh right now. Because if you don't laugh, you go insane. He replied. The car took a hard corner. I fell sideways into Sebastian on instinct. His arm came around my waist immediately. His hand was warm, steady, so solid it made me furious that it felt safe. I looked up. Sebastian was already looking at me, close enough that my heart started missing beats again. What? I muttered. You're beautiful. I choked on air. You just finished a gunfight. Yeah. This is not the time to say things like that. Can't help it. My face was so hot it reached my ears. Damien groaned audibly from the front. I'm right here. Sebastian didn't even glance at him. His eyes stayed fixed on mine. You can stay in my penthouse for a few days.
No.
I have a private chef. Go on. Damien burst out laughing again. I knew food would do it. I'm broke, I protested. That's not my fault. Sebastian laughed under his breath. Low and quiet. It settled somewhere in my chest in a way I desperately wanted to ignore. I was starting to like the sound of his laugh. That was a very bad sign. About 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a high-rise with a direct view of the Chicago River. I looked up, stunned. You live here? Yeah. How much a month? Sebastian went quiet for a moment. I bought the whole building. I turned to Damien. I hate him. Get in line. A private elevator carried us to the top floor. The doors opened, and I immediately understood why he'd bought the whole building. The penthouse was massive. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls overlooking the entire city. Dark, rich furnishings that looked like something out of a film set. But the thing I noticed first, a black grand piano positioned near the windows. I blinked. You play. Sebastian set his gun on the table like it was a set of keys. Sometimes. I thought the mafia just shot people. That's a stereotype. Before I could respond, Sebastian swayed suddenly. Blood was seeping through the bandage on his shoulder again. Sebastian! I grabbed him by instinct, arm going around his waist. He looked down at where I was holding him, then up at my face. The corner of his mouth slowly lifted. You really are worried about me. My heart dropped a beat. And worse, I couldn't deny it anymore. I am not worried about you, I said immediately. Sebastian looked at me with absolutely zero conviction. You're hugging me. I let go of him like I'd touched a hot stove. That's just a normal human reflex. Goo. I will actually punch you. You're nearly a foot shorter than me. I'll still do it. Damien sighed from somewhere behind us. Flirting as aggression. Classic. I am not flirting. Sebastian only smiled faintly and kept moving into the living room. But after a few steps he had to catch himself on the table, hissing through his teeth. The smile fell off my face. You need a doctor. I called one. And if your mafia doctor got shot on the way here? I have a backup. Of course you do. Sebastian turned his head to look at me. Are you hungry? I blinked. What? You didn't eat dinner, did you? It took me a few seconds to process the fact that a man who had just survived a firefight was asking about my dinner, in a completely normal voice. I had a sandwich at 6. So no. I think the priority right now should be your bullet wound. Sebastian shrugged. I'm used to it. That landed somewhere quiet in my chest. Used to it. What kind of person gets used to being shot? He opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water, and drank. The kitchen light, soft yellow, fell across his face and made him look less frightening than he had with a gun in his hand. Just like a tired person. A devastatingly handsome tired person. No. Stop. Elliot. Don't. I needed to stop thinking like that immediately. The guest room is down that hall. Sebastian tilted his chin toward the corridor. You can sleep there. I haven't agreed to stay. I know, he said simply. But you will. You're very confident. Sebastian looked at me directly. There are people outside who want to hurt you. You're not helping my stress levels. Damien looked up from his phone by the window. Oh wow. I turned. Now what? He held up the screen. Breaking news. Shootout at the Belmont Hotel, Cole family suspected. And right below it, a blurry but unmistakable photo. Sebastian pulling me through the rain at a run. His arm around my waist. I felt sick. Oh, this is over. Damien was trying not to smile. The comments are something. I don't want to see them. Someone says you two look really good together. I don't care. Sebastian. From the sofa. His brow furrowed slightly with pain. I agree with them. Pointed at him. You. Quiet.
No.
Why? Because you blush and it's entertaining. I hated that he was right. The doorbell chimed and saved me from a complete breakdown. A woman, maybe 40, walked in carrying a medical case. She looked at Sebastian, then sighed. What is it this time? Bullet. Of course. She turned to me. Her eyes stopped on the jacket I was still wearing. Sebastian's jacket. Then she raised an eyebrow. Oh, I knew exactly what she was thinking. It's not what you're thinking. Sebastian, flat on his back on the sofa. She's my girlfriend. Are you addicted to lying? The woman burst out laughing.
Imderi Elena.
She pulled on latex gloves. And you are officially the first person I've ever seen yell at Sebastian like that. Because he deserves to be yelled at. Sebastian looked up at me, clearly entertained. I'm starting to love the sound of your voice. Damien put his head in his hands. Lord, he actually likes this one. I don't want to know that. Dr. Elena began working on Sebastian's shoulder. I meant to look away. I didn't. He barely reacted. No flinching. No sounds. Just staring at the ceiling in silence. That settled heavily in my chest. How much does a person have to go through before pain stops registering? He must have felt me staring because he turned his head. You're looking at me like a sad dog. I stopped. Does it hurt? Sebastian was quiet. Then he smiled faintly. Yeah. And for the first time, I caught something genuinely exhausted behind his eyes. It made my chest hurt. Dr. Elena glanced between us and smiled in a way that said far too much. I see. I don't. I said. Trust me, she said. This boy has never once brought anyone back to his penthouse. I wheeled on Sebastian. So you usually bring them to the hotel? Damien nearly spit laughing. Sebastian pinched the bridge of his nose. That's the part you focused on? I need to know if I should be getting tested. Dr. Elena started laughing so hard she had to pause stitching. Sebastian looked at me flatly. I'm clean. My face went scarlet. I wasn't actually asking. But you were curious. I was not curious. Your ears are red. I hate you. No, you don't. His voice dropped just slightly. You're just scared. That stopped me cold. Because, God, he was right. I was scared. Scared of the mafia. Scared of being hunted. And most of all, scared of this strange, relentless feeling every time Sebastian looked at me like I was the only interesting thing left in the world. When Dr. Elena finished and packed up her bag, she stood and patted my arm. Keep an eye on him for me? I stared. Why me? Because he'll only listen to you. I've known him for 3 hours. Sebastian corrected quietly. 3 hours and 20 minutes. You're counting? Yeah. I was gonna lose my mind. Damien stood and shrugged on his coat. I'm going to go deal with the mess outside. He glanced at me with a grin. Good luck, college boy. I don't need luck. I need therapy. Too late. The door closed. And for the first time since we'd met, it was just me and Sebastian. The penthouse was wide and quiet around us. Rain tapped against the glass. Sebastian had his head rested back against the sofa, eyes half closed with exhaustion. I stood there for a moment. Then I walked over and pulled a blanket across him. Just as I started to step back, a hand closed around my wrist. I went still. Sebastian opened his eyes and looked up at me. Hair slightly messed, face pale from blood loss. But those eyes still knocked my heartbeat sideways. Stay tonight. His voice was rough. I swallowed. Why? His fingers tightened gently around my wrist. Then Sebastian said, so quietly it was almost nothing, because it's been a long time since I didn't want to sleep alone.